pentru care ești născut în această țară, condițiile în care trăiești, familia pe care o ai, modul cum arăți.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Okay, so you do hear me. I thought of starting with a little bit of Renaissance music since we talk about Palladio. And there are 3 students who prepared some presentations about Palladio, and we'll start with them. And then I will make myself a presentation about Palladio, and then we'll go to the contemporary Adrian Smith, who is in many respects the very opposite of Palladio. So I think it will be an interesting day. So again, we start with 3 presentations by 3 students. And afterwards, I will make myself a presentation about Palladio and his villas. And then we'll go to the ambitious Adrian Smith, the Chicago-born North American architect, and complete the picture, so to speak, with 2 people connected with today, meaning the 19th of August. And tomorrow, before I forget, I would like to invite you to a very special day, because let me turn off the music. I don't know if you hear me very well. So tomorrow it will be a very special day, because 3 very, very important Scandinavian architects were born on the same day, the 20th of August. Well, one of them was born in the United States, but he was Finnish. His parents were Finnish, and his father was a great, great architect, Eliel Saarinen. And I'm talking about the son, who was born on the same day his father was born, the 20th of August. I will talk about Eliel Saarinen and Eero Saarinen, truly very important architects. And I don't even know if in the history of architecture there are couples, so to speak, father and son, as important as Saarinen and Saarinen. There are cases where, you know, like even Frank Lloyd Wright, he had a son who was an architect, but he was not of the same stature, so to speak, not physically, but in terms of architectural accomplishments as his father. But in the case of Saarinen, both are extremely important, and I would say equals, although the son built a little bit more than his father, but his father also built a lot. So I will talk tomorrow about Eliel Saarinen and then Eero Saarinen, and the third one will be Henning Larsen, the Danish architect. So it will be a difficult task for me because all three architects were extremely prolific and very, very important for modern architecture. But since this is my my preoccupation to celebrate important architects on their birthdays, I have to pay homage to all three of them. So we'll wait, if you don't mind, a few more minutes until maybe a few more people will show up, and then I invite the first student who is not yet a student. She just entered the University of Architecture, and I'm truly very, very pleased and even you know, emotional to invite Francesca, who she didn't yet start the university, but she wanted to make a presentation about Palladio. And I think she's an example for other students, and maybe not just students, because I think there is a problem when you have someone who didn't start the university yet, who is full of enthusiasm and full of energy and full of ideas and a desire to learn more and more and more. But unfortunately, my experience is that students, as they advance in their studies and then they become architects, maybe also because of the objective reasons that, you know, they get entangled into, you know, so-called practice and all kinds of other problems, their enthusiasm for such activities diminishes. And I think it shouldn't diminish, because it's about idealism, it's about culture, it's about ideas, it's about learning, and it's about creation. So again, Francesca, who is not yet 20, who just entered the University of Architecture, she will start the first one, and she might have to make 2 presentations. I'm not very sure, because I'm a little bit confused. She told me she wanted to prepare 2 short presentations about 2 buildings by Andrea Palladio. So we'll start with her. I see people are still coming. So we wait 3 more minutes, and then we'll start with Francesca. Then we'll go to Julia, and then Bogdan Botoi, who was always fascinated by Villa Rotonda or Villa Capra by Palladio, will talk about that great building by Palladio, which Goethe considered to be the perfect building. And Goethe was not a man with low standards, quite the opposite. He had very high standards, cultural and intellectual and artistic, and I think he understood architecture. So, you know, La Rotonda is La Rotonda, Villa Capra is Villa Capra, and Palladio is Palladio. So I think we'll have an interesting day today. And of course, this is just a beginning in a way. Palladio deserves more. I mean, we are dealing with a truly very, very important architect, and I'm not sure we do justice to him, but we try. And I think that's already a lot, to try, to want to pay homage to those who truly meant something in architecture and in culture. and Palladio is a fundamental force. We'll also talk about him on his birthday. He died today 440 years ago. Adrian Smith, on the other hand, he was born today. And because, you know, the date of birth and the date one dies, maybe they are not so very different in their essence, although they might appear diametrically opposed, but maybe they are not quite so. For example, I read that 1 or 2 days ago was Saint Mary in Orthodox religion, Christian religion, and it was the day when Mary died, but some people think she was actually born into the other life. So maybe death is some kind of a threshold. We don't know what is beyond it, beyond the threshold, but it could be seen death as a new beginning. And I'm not talking in delusional terms. We don't know what it is, but somehow there is a relationship in the hourglass of existence between birth and death. So, you know, today we'll pay homage to Palladio because he died today on the 19th of August, 440 years ago. That is in 1580. And he was born in 1508. Okay, so Francesca, are you ready?
Please give me 1 more minute, please.
Okay. In fact, there is one. Okay.
Thank you.
Don't be emotional. If you want, we can go to someone else and, you know.
If that could be possible, then yes, please do so.
Okay, Julia, are you ready?
Yes. Yes,
Okay,
I am.
Julia, you are courageous. Very good. And Francesca is courageous too. Please don't be agitated, because I mean, I understand this is you know, a new experience for you, but nobody sees you actually, and you know, you are in the comfort of your room and you are essentially between friends now. So
Okay, it's fine. I'm not nervous or something like that.
pardon, you are
It's
nervous?
okay. No, I'm not.
Okay, so let me give you the right to talk. I mean, to share the screen.
Okay.
Just a second, my co-host. Okay. Okay, Julia. So you will be able now to show what you have to show.
Sorry, we'll see.
Okay, so you'll talk about Basilica Palladiana.
Basilica, yes, I choose the.
But
What?
just so kind of, there is a background noise, so please be kind and turn off the microphones.
Okay. So I choose to talk about Basilica Palladiana. And firstly, I want to give a little context. So,
Sorry, Julia, you cannot make a full screen, like start the slideshow?
it's not a slideshow. I made it in Office.
Okay, it's fine. Thank you.
Okay. So, I want to give a little context. So, I say that this building is located in northeastern of Italy, in the center of Piazza del Signori in Vicenza, and Basilica Palladiana is probably the most iconic building of Palladio. It was originally built in the 15th century by Domenico da Venezia and was known as the Palazzo della Regione. Initially, the style was Gothic, the building itself serving as the seat of government with various shops on the ground floor. And the Gothic facade was in red and yellow Verona marble, and it is still visible behind the addition of Palladio. The original wooden roof covered the large hall in the same style. The floor ground included a network of stone values built around 4015. By the end of the 16th century, shops and warehouses had two-story loggia, but it collapsed quickly after its completion. The war was a factor, and the council was convened for consultation. Sadly, I didn't find the drawing with the basilica before Palladio addition, but I found a plan. which it can see that it's pretty irregular. And then after the concilium was convened, um, many famous names such as San Michele, Sansovino, Cirillo, and Giulio Romano were.
I don't want to do this job anymore.
What?
Please be kind and turn off the microphones. Everybody should turn off the microphone so the speaker can talk properly.
Okay. Giulio set out to rebuild the recently collapsed Loggia, but also to fortify it, but his idea was rejected. Majority vote in the council opted for a more classic design, and Palladio was pretty known that he was knowing.
Sorry, Julia, we must turn off, we must mute the microphone of that person.
I think you have the option to mute all the participants.
Well, I cannot do it because I cannot get off this screen, which is yours. You are now in charge with the screen, and I don't see the participants.
Oh, okay.
Can you please turn off the microphones of those who have them open?
I'll try.
You just click on mute wherever you see the microphone active.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I mute myself. Okay, I think it's fine. Everybody has their phone.
I still hear, it's incredible.
It's my phone, sorry. Okay. So I'd say that the council opted for a more classic design, and Palladio was known that he knew everything about the classical order, so they picked him. In 1545, Palladio's new drawings were accepted, and the eventual model was completed. And Palladio's solution was not a building, but a screen that surrounds the old core. And Palladio was clarified to begin in 1549. The screen acts as a buttress system or braces. It also acts as a frame while hiding the irregular appearance of the inner core from public view. And here I found the model where it's shown how the skin that Palladio made cover the core of the initial building. And I found some of his drawings here. And then the frieze with the triglyphs and the metops, okay, were manipulated smart enough from them to appear regularly with the naked eye, just like bays that are really irregular when measured from the base. One reason is that the distance between the DNTs was completely random. And here I attach a photo where we can see that. The corner bases needed to be narrower to keep the corners strong enough. Therefore, two semi-columns were placed on these antiques instead of one. The open eye in the base on the corner not only became smaller, but they were closed. The irregular inclined anther, instead of an angle of 90 degrees, is hidden from the view by protruding a semi-column. And I don't know why here, oh, okay, here is the picture where we can see the corner. And behind the screen, the base of the Gothic building are irregular. At the corners too, this corner problem only applies to the northwest corner. It is the place where you can see the two parts of the facade.
Could you
here.
please show us again that corner?
Yes, here.
So where can you see the two facades simultaneously?
Here are the two facades simultaneously.
Okay, thank you.
And this is the corner where two semi-columns were placed.
Julia, you have to show us the picture. You keep showing us the text, but we also
Here.
have to see the picture.
Okay, here is the corner where two columns were placed, and there is the picture where the two facades are seen in the same time. Suffice to say that Palladio was implemented visually appealing refinements. It is displayed on the first floor. The semi-columns stand out while the small contour has been pushed back. The same is true for the Gothic columns to the old core. The combination of art and architraves was implemented so beautifully by Palladio that this motif, the Sterilo motif, became very popular and even received the name Palladio. The Loggia is Palladio's only building that is made entirely of stone. This also explains why the construction of Loggia lasted until 1617, 30 years after his death, and was also very expensive. And that's all I found about I mean, it's not all, but it's all that I wrote about Palladio.
Okay, Julia, thank you very much. Now, Bogdan, are you ready? Bogdan, well, I guess. Francesca, are you ready?
Yes, I think I'm prepared now.
Okay, please start because Bogdan is not answering. So. Okay, let me give you the opportunity to use the screen. Okay, you should be able to start now, Francesca.
All right, let me try. It's my first time doing this. Share screen. This one. Okay, is it working?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, then it's perfect. Well, I was supposed to present Villa Barbaro as well, but I would like to start by saying that Palladio's architecture bespeaks rationality, and it also pays homage to antiquity in its use of classical forms and a lot of decorative motifs. His villas were mainly built for the gentry who, during the period of Palladio's maturity, gained in prosperity and found
Sorry. Can you make full screen?
Oh, yeah, sure. I forgot. Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And before we proceed to the tour of the villa, I will read this quote by Goethe. So he said that you have to see these buildings with your own eyes to realize how good they are. No reproductions of Palladio's designs give an adequate idea of the harmony of their dimensions. They must be seen in their actual perspective. Well, I've never seen a building by Palladio myself, but I tend to believe that that what Goethe said is true.
Yes, it is true, Francesca.
Yeah. Sorry, but I will skip to the Tempieta Barbaro, if that's okay. Or should I start with the other villa?
You can do all three of them.
Oh, really?
Really, come on, courageously plunge into the Palladio kingdom.
Oh, well, since I'm already at the Tempietto, I'm gonna present it.
Very good.
So towards the end of his life, Palladio received the opportunity to build a church, the Tempiedo Barbaro, as can be seen in the picture, and it was meant to serve the Villa Barbaro and the village of Mazer. It is not certain when it was exactly built, but all what we know for sure is that it was one of his last two buildings. The Tempietto and the Teatro Olimpico are actually the last ones. Look, now we're getting closer to it. What is notable about this commission in particular is that it was Palladio's only opportunity to construct the central planned church. Because other earlier attempts to create a centralized church at Il Redentore in Venezia, for example, were denied and were replaced with Latin cross plans. Palladio considered the circle to be the ideal form, and like many of his predecessors, he conceived of the central plan as the ideal structure. This preference is visible in the symmetry of many of his villas, and as you may already know, the most notable example is Villa La Rotonda. And in addition to its popular name of Tempietto, which means little temple, this church has been called Piccolo Pantheon, meaning little pantheon. Like the ancient pantheon in Rome, the Tempietto has a pedimented portico and a shallow stepped dome that is hemispherical on the interior, and it rests on a circular exterior wall, as can be seen here. Yeah, I think I'll stay to this picture a little bit more because although interrupted by the three arms containing the chapels, the circularity of the church wall and the dome still dominate the visitor's impression of the interior, which is this. Sorry for the quality of the picture. I couldn't find a better one. And this is all I could find about the Tempietto Barbaro. So moving forward to Villa Foscari. It was built between 1558 and 1560, and it was commissioned by Niccolo and Luigi Foscari, the relatives of Francesco Foscari, the Venetian Republic's most fearsome Doge. And the villa comes into view behind the stand of weeping willows, a giant Ionic column, and a glimpse of pediment announced Palladio Villa as unmistakably as a billboard. It is located beside the Brenda Canal, and it is raised on a pedestal, which is characteristic to Palladio's villas. What is special about this pedestal is that it is more massive than most of Palladio's villas. To give you an idea, it is its base. So this pedestal's base is more than twice the height Palladio normally used. Mainly because it was not possible to construct a subterranean basement on the seat. The villa lacks the agricultural buildings, which were an integral part of some of other Palladian villas, but he took care of that, and the last story of the building is meant for agricultural use. What I haven't mentioned yet about the villa is that it is better known as La Malcontenta, supposedly named after an unhappy and allegedly unfaithful wife who was locked up there by her suspicious husband. But the truth is that this is an apocryphal embellishment because the Italian Malcontenta is a reference to the river nearby being liable to burst its banks and flood. And all this terrain that all the area surrounding the house used to offer refuge for outlaws, which in Italian is called malcontenti. Okay. Here you can see it from more angles. Look at the outstanding symmetry. This is the back of the villa. I found this very interesting representation, this section. This is an image from Palladio's Quattro Libri dell'Architettura, the 4 books of architecture, where he drew the plan of the Villa Foscari. Well, as can be seen here, it is laid out on 3 levels, in a way that each level distinguishes itself among the functional activities. On the ground floor, there were the functional activities, as I said. Then so-called noble activities were on the first floor, and the deposit of agricultural goods was at the top floor. The original function of the villa was to host official receptions. Standing on a pedestal gave the villa a monumental effect and made it suitable for events of this nature. Oh, a little bit backwards. Yeah. So it has a cubic form with a Greek temple front facing the Brenta Canal, and it is a design motif reminiscent of its contemporary design, Villa Rotonda in Vicenza. The villa has a lot of stories to say. The composer Cole Porter or Cecil Beaton or even Le Corbusier visited it. And even Sir Winston Churchill stayed there in the 1920s. And Peggy Guggenheim, the niece of Solomon Guggenheim, tried and failed to buy it in the 60s. Okay, now you will see more perspectives from the villa. Yeah, right. Let's talk a bit about the interiors. So, as many of Palladio's villas, probably most of them, the interior is richly decorated with frescoes by Battista Franco and Giambattista Zelotti. And even mythological scenes from Ovid alternate with allegories of the arts and virtues. As at the other Palladian villas, the paintings reflect villa life in, for example, I think this is called Astra showing Jove the pleasures of the earth. Yeah. I already mentioned that it was a Beaumont destination for a lot of celebrities, so to say. And this is a sculpture by Zaha Hadid inside the villa, but I couldn't find more information about that. I think I forgot to say that the house behind the portico is massive, as you already saw, and the brick walls are faced with a Venetian type of stucco called marmorino, which is a special type of mixture of powdered seashells and travertine marble dust mixed with lime. This was plastered onto the walls, then pressed with a hot iron, which made an integrally colored, shiny surface that resembles soapstone. Well, I tried to look for videos with this process because I thought it would be interesting, but I couldn't find something worth showing. Yep. And for me, wait, I think, yeah, we have to go back again. For me, this grand facade is the work of a Palladio who is interested in monumentality and solemn monumentality, and it conveys a sense of I don't know, of sheer awe, so to say. the villa is full of interesting stories, and at the time he was designing La Malcontenta, Palladio was blocked from large public commissions. So imagine the frustration that he must have felt. As architects sometimes do, he used domestic commissions to demonstrate his architectural ideas and to establish himself as a great architect. And this will be seen in Le Corbusier or Robert Venturi's or even Frank Gehry's life. So, La Malcontenta's great imperial portico, which would be seen by dozens of Venetians passing on the Brenta, the river, really is like some sort of billboard for that age. And not only for the Foscari brothers, for the whole Foscari family, but also for Palladio's particular vision of Roman classicism. And this is all for Villa Foscari.
Great, Francesca. Now, do you have something also about the other building?
Yeah, it's the first slide, in the first slides. But I thought someone else was going to present Villa Barbaro.
No, the fourth person didn't show up, so it's you, it's on you. But you are doing a great job, so please continue.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, I was supposed to start with Villa Barbaro, built in 5060. And I read this beautiful quote from of Goethe, but if you want, I can read it again. No, let's move on. So please allow me to take you to the Venetian countryside in the terraferma, or the Venetian Republic, in the small town of Mazer, where the villa is located. The villa is masterfully integrated into its site at the foothills of the Dolomitic Alps, as can be seen here in the background. At the base of the mountains, the unmistakable yellow silhouette faces south at the top of a gentle slope overlooking cultivated fields and vineyards. Here is an illustration from the 4 books of architecture, which I mentioned earlier, the Quattro Libri by Andrea Palladio, where he illustrated the facade and has a short text describing the villa, but unfortunately, I don't know Italian, so I'm not gonna read that. The villa was built over a pre-existing building that belonged to the Barbaro family, and it dictated some of the decision in terms of how the villa looked. But we'll get into more details later. So these are the patrons of the villa. They are brothers, Marc Antonio on the left, probably painted by Tintoretto, and Daniele Barbaro on the right, in a portrait made by Veronese. The 2 brothers who were at the heart of the cultural life of Venice in the middle of the 16th century. Marc Antonio, for example, was a diplomat interested in various branches of culture and science. He even served for a time as ambassador in Constantinople. On the right, we have Daniel. He was an I can't say the word. Oh, I'll just move on. He became the patriarch of Aquileia, one of the top positions in the Venetian ecclesiastical, almost right, hierarchy. But he was also ambassador in London. He designed botanical gardens of Padua, and most likely, and most important of all, he actually translated Vitruvius's treatise, Books on Architecture, into Italian, and Palladio helped in that enterprise by preparing the drawings. I thought it was it would be proper to make an introduction about them both, because, well, the villa is theirs, so it's good to know the owners too. Now, Here is the plan of the villa. The main parts of this plan are a large block in the center, a wide loggia fronted wing that stands behind the central block, and large blocks on each end of the lateral wings. Two factors concerning the seat conditioned the villa. Oh, sorry. Um, so two factors concerning the seat-conditioned villa's lateral spread. So the presence of foundation from an earlier laterally spread structure and the steepness of the slope, which would have required extensive excavation to accommodate a deeper building. So these considerations affected the disposition of the rooms. Now here is the facade. It is long and narrow. The gable end of the central portion is a delicately modeled temple front. Palladio adapted the classical temple front to the facade of the villas because it had the dignity for a suitable entrance, as he thought. He reasoned that since ancient temples such as the Pantheon in Rome had pedimented porticos as well. As a matter of fact, the four Ionic columns, a motif which takes its inspiration from the Temple of Fortuna Virilis in Rome. That's what I found. But I think it was quite usual to see the columns. So yeah. Oh, sorry. And between the pediment, there is a Latin description. There is a Latin description dedicating the villa to the father, to the brother's father, and I think it translates to Daniel Barbaro, patriarch of Aquileia, and Marcantorio, his brother, sons of Francesco Barbaro. So the central block is flanked by two symmetrical wings, which have two floors, but they are fronted by an open arcade. Usually, Palladio designed the wings to provide functional accommodation for agricultural use. The Villa Barbaro is unusual in having private living quarters on the upper level of the Barches. I hope I said it right. So these two wings have rooms and also and they are also used for agricultural purposes. Yeah, this is probably how the ancient facade looked. What you see from this view is a vista from the villa out into the countryside, and here you see the vines and the grapes. The owners of the villa still produce wine for the estate. For me, this view serves an invitation to meditate on beauty of the landscape, and it's a nice place to marvel at the nature, I would say. Yeah, we will talk about this later. Behind the building, there is a hill from which a spring of water brings water down to a nymphaeum. The inclusion of a nymphaeum is a feature that had been incorporated that had been incorporated into many villas around Rome in both ancient and modern times. This one is decorated with various mythological and ancient figures, and it has a lot of inscriptions. But I couldn't zoom in to see what they say. Yeah. Well, it's good to know that the villa is still inhabited and it's a private villa, but it's still open to the public. So everyone can visit it. People have been living in this house since I don't know, the 16th century, and that's how how spectacular the villa is. Almost 5 centuries apart, Palladio's villa is still alive. This is what surprised me the most. Okay, let us continue with the interior. When you enter the villa, you enter the space known as the crosiera, which is a cross-shaped space which cuts almost the entire length and the entire width of the villa, with windows on at least 3 of its sides. It is some sort of an incomplete entrance because from what I read, the ceiling should have been painted as well, but I'm not sure what happened. Well, anyway, most of the rooms in the villa were entirely frescoed by Veronese. The Barbaro brothers asked Veronese to decorate this incredible Palladio building with these wonderful frescoes. And what they achieved is to recreate an ancient house in the 16th century Venetian countryside. Look at the architectural features. They are all painted. They don't exist. It's like a game between reality and fiction. Well, as I said, Veronese is creating a space with architectural features, with balustrades and columns, and within this space, he sets up statues and reliefs and landscapes. And many of these landscapes were copied from engravings that were produced in the 50s in the North Italy, and yeah. Here is one of the walls of the Crociera. And you see that you have the statues, but they are some sort of living statues. I think that was the initial the intention of the fresco. You have these wonderful women playing musical instruments, but also boys and girls. I didn't include the one with the girl. Sorry, but I think you can see it here. Yeah, it's fine. So they are coming out of the doors, and this is a wonderful trompe effect. It's some sort of joke with the space you're living in. Well, a notable thing about this space particularly is the relationship with the countryside. You have fictive landscapes and beyond that, you find the real landscapes of the countryside of Mazer outside the window. Around the Crociera, there are a series of rooms, and 2 of them are Sala of the Tribunale dell'Amore and the Sala of Bacchus. And they're all painting floor to ceiling with these architectural features. So, for example, look, the corniche at the top. The corniche at the top is actually 3-dimensional and sculpted with stucco, while the columns and the doors and many other parts are actually painted. So it's quite difficult to tell apart fiction from reality. Here you have Veronese creating even more fictive spaces. So look through the ceiling, look above. If you look through the ceiling, you see the vines and plants, and you see the sky. But if you look to the end of the walls toward the window, you see that columns almost sit in front of the window, but create a further space between the columns and the window where there are statues in the background. So this is a fresco from the Rome Tribunale dell'Amore. It seems to be about figures of gods and mythological figures that protect the family. And of course, this was a family home for the two brothers and for the children of Marcantonio and his descendants. But the other room has has um, has figures of Bacchus squeezing grapes, and of course, this connects to the land outside Mazer and the fact that the villa was also an agricultural center and especially a center for wine production. Mm, Many of these allegorical figures in these rooms and other rooms of the villa are difficult to define. There's just a plethora of interpretations they've been given in history, but we don't know what they actually mean. I mean, think about the fact that Marcantonio and Daniele were both great intellectuals, and they were very interested in ancient culture. So some of these allegorical figures may have been so particular and precise to their studies and their knowledge that it's so difficult for us today to understand the overall meaning of the villa. Okay, but apart from the mysterious meanings, there are also many wonderful jokes around this villa. In one of the ledges, Veronese paints a little brush and a pair of shoes as if someone had just been cleaning the area and had put a pair of shoes on this ledge and forgotten them there for a few minutes. Now I welcome you to the room of the dog, La stanza del cane. Well, I dare you to spot the dog. If you don't see it, well, maybe you see it now. Well, look again. Um, so when you look again at this decoration floor to ceiling done by Veronese, you look at the bottom and you see a little dog sitting in front of the step. This, of course, is one of the dogs of the family. And amazingly enough, the same exact type of dogs still exist at Mazer. And this is a very funny picture that I found on the internet. Again, this is another joke, and this is a joke that I particularly like. So one of the many doors, there are beautiful ancient figures in fictive sculptures of young men and women, but in one of them you have these two older, somewhat less heroic, as you can see, figures. And it's clear that when you look at them, they resemble the Barbaro brothers very, very well. It's actually the portraits of them. So Veronese put them here as classical sculptures. So on the left you have Marcantonio with grapes, a sort of a modern Bacchus, and of course Marcantonio used to run the wine production at Mazer. And on the right, as Apollo with the lyre is Daniel, who is the intellectual of the family in many ways. And out of these two, he is the scholar. So it's like a, um, a wonderful juxtaposition between Bacchus and Apollo, between Marcantonio and Daniele. The central room is square-shaped, and it is located at the heart of the villa, between the crosiera and the nymphaeum. It is called the Sala dell'Olimpo. It is the most complex room in terms of iconography because it sort of collects within its ceilings almost the entire world. Just look at it. It's wonderful and complex at the same time. So you see, you can spot here, I don't know, Mars, Venus, Jupiter, and so on. And from my research, nobody knows what the figure at the center means. It's very unclear.
Could you enlarge, Francesca, that part of the ceiling, so maybe we can guess who that central figure is?
I'm trying to zoom. Well, the image is not very clear.
Yeah.
Okay. Mhm.
Thank you.
No problem.
You are doing
So,
a wonderful job, Francesca. Thank you. I'm sure everybody agrees with me.
well, here in this room, the balcony, of course, is just another fresco, just like everything we saw earlier. But over the balcony, you have the woman in the center who is Mark Antonia's wife, and she's the lady. She's the lady of the house, and next to her you can find her servant with the dog, I think. Yeah, probably the dog. And here you have one of their sons, and of course a little parrot. So this is the family villa that was created by Palladio and Veronese, and it's looking back on the great antique world, which both which both of the brothers were were very interested in, from Vitruvius and other resources, and they've managed to recreate the the world, but they transposed it in more modern times. Well, as you get through that door, uh, at the end of it, you find a portrait. Oh, sorry. Go back. Yeah. So this is the portrait of a hunter. It is supposedly Veronese. So he might have painted himself at the heart of the villa, representing representing himself within the world of Daniele and Marc Antonio Barbaro. So I hope I convinced you to visit the Villa Barbaro. Yeah, this was the tour. I finished.
You did, Francesca. Now we all pray that the pandemic will will vanish, and we'll all run to see this beautiful villa that you so eloquently presented. I'm really impressed. I want to ask you, if you allow me to ask you in public, how old are you? Are you 18 or 19?
I am 19.
Can you believe it? So this is a 19 years old young person who didn't even start the architecture school. And she talked as if she's doing a PhD thesis on these works by Palladio. I'm very, very impressed, and I cannot applaud you more than the space requires. You're unbelievable, Francesca. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you for your kind words, and thank you for giving me the chance to present.
From now on, you'll take over these presentations, and you'll do one tomorrow too. You have to. Anyway, Bogdan, it's your turn.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Let me give you the right to use the screens. Okay.
Okay, I will share. So can you hear me well? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So Villa Capra, or Rotonda, it was made by Palladio but finished by Scamozzi. This is an engraving by Palladio from the Quattro Libri. It's the only drawing, but that is left from him. And unfortunately, it's not very detailed, being an engraving. What is special about this villa is the villa in general. The countryside villa is a very horizontal building, and this is more like a palace. And by the words of Palladio, this is, he called this villa a palace,
Sorry,
which,
Bogdan, this is a full screen?
yeah, it's a photo.
Okay,
It's on the actual resolution of the photo. I can.
no, because I see also at the top some, but maybe that's how it should be. I don't know.
Oh, let me. No, it's okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So this villa has the living part on top of the less important functions. Oh, I hear myself many times. Oh, it's okay now. So there is a very big difference between the drawings intended by Palladio and the villa that is today, and that is the cupola. Palladio made a semi-spherical cupola on top, and Scamozzi did a cupola lower, which resembles more the cupola of the Pantheon, and made the oculus on the top. And I don't know if this intervention, maybe it's better that two architects had something to say, and it was not of one thought. The villa has the point of the square to the north, so that every room in the villa will get sunlight, and the central room gets sunlight from the top, from the atrium. The house is practically squares within squares within squares, and everything is a big wholeness. So by the words of Palladio, he said that beauty will result from the form and correspondence of the whole with respect to the several parts, of parts with regard to each other, and of these again to the whole. The structure may appear an entire and compliant body, wherein each member agrees with the other, and all are necessary to compose what you intend to form. So this villa is the essence of his architectural ideas, and it represents really simplicity and directness, and I will say humanity, even though humanity doesn't show in the drawings. But
You
it
should
is there.
stop it. Sorry.
I didn't hear.
Yeah.
Please be kind and turn off the microphones.
So this is pure and straightforward architecture. It's very calm and symmetrical with simple geometrical form. You look at this and say, I could do that, but it's not like this. It seems easy and effortless, but its form looks obvious. It's like something that should have always existed, and it was always there. But this kind of obvious simplicity is the most kind of hidden simplicity, and it requires the greatest effort of creation to make possible. This is a picture of the entrance of the wall. I think that the architect, that Andrea Palladio, through this villa, he managed to reach the real essence of architecture. I believe that architecture, to be complete, requires two parts: one of material, pure architecture, and the other one of life itself that inhabits architecture. But in this villa, I see that it seems to me that architecture is complete just by itself, and this raises the question: if life is needed, like it seems hard to picture someone living a mundane and day by day life in this house. But does life have any place in here? But I think it has, and not only for the individual human life, but for the nature itself. This whole architecture complete enhances and makes life better. Oh, and yeah, this the villa looks much larger than it is, because of the porticos. The square of the porticos is perceived uh, much larger than from the front. From the front, it looks much smaller. This is the beneath the portico. I always wondered this. I am glad that I found this picture. And inside the walls, like in many Palladian villas, the walls are painted and without three-dimensional, um, without much three-dimensional sculpture, but sculpture is at the doors and at the ceilings. Most of the time, this is a photo of the interior room with the cupola. This is the cupola made by Scamozzi, it seems. Yeah, so for me, this building is not by any means historical in any way. It is very important, and I think everybody has a lot to learn by really looking into this simple building that may look banal at the first sight. Imagine living in here. I don't think you could procrastinate in such a building, you know. Yes. So I won't talk more about this. It's just such a magnificent piece and such simple. It's overwhelming. Dan asked me to make a creative homage to this, but if you do this, you kind of compare to to Palladio and this villa, and it's somewhat sacrilegious. Yeah. So this I had to show, not much, but somehow the essential. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bogdan. Can you please reactivate my screen, or is not necessary?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
The regulating lines and the proportions of this are very interesting, and I recommend to you to study them. It's very, everything is very precise and everything has meaning. Yeah, thank you.
You are welcome, Bogdan. Thank you very much. And let's hope the next time we'll have more students willing to make presentations, because I think it's more interesting when there are various positions and various voices even, and you know, you can always learn from someone else. But before I begin my own presentation, which will not be very long, it will not be about the whole of Palladio, but just about his villas. And then I'll talk about Adrian Smith. But before I do that, I want to ask you, do you want to say anything about the three buildings? Well, actually 5, because Francesca presented 3. About the 5 buildings of Palladio that were presented until now?
I want to say that I have prepared a short presentation about Villa Valmarana.
Okay, do you want to show it?
Yes. It's my first time presenting here in English. Can I share the screen?
Yes. Just a second. Okay. Thank you.
So, Valmarana family was a very important aristocratic family in Vicenza, and Palladio designed many villas and palazzos for them. All of them are in the northern part of Italy, in Vicenza and Venice. This is Villa Valmarana Alistera. Unfortunately, I haven't found many information about it, but in Quattro Libri, I saw it is this plan, this engraving that shows how the palace was designed, and because of the death of the owner, it was somehow neglected the part with the fronton, as you can see here. There were 2 stories loggias, and in reality it wasn't. It hasn't been built. Then during the World War II, it has been destroyed, and now it seems closed and is not open for visiting. Maybe this is why there are not so many informations about it. And there is Villa Valmarana Ainani that was built for one of his daughters, and where Andrea Palladio's portrait is shown in the main room of the villa. This is an aerial view from Villa Valmarana Ainani. The legend about this villa is that Princess Aleana was small, and her parents commanded 17 dwarfs made of stone that in that time were put in the garden, but now they sit on this, cum se spune, guard.
Pardon? What do you want to say?
Guard de beton.
Fence.
On this fence. Maybe, and she died, and she killed herself because of her condition, because she couldn't stand the fact that she was so small, and yeah, her parents did this kind of homage in her memory. This is the famous portrait of Andrea Palladio. It's not known why they put it in this villa, but considering the fact that he built so much for Varmarana, maybe, and this villa of them is the most well preserved and visited. Maybe that's why they put his portrait here, but I don't know. These are some photos from the garden. Here is a open air theater. The facades are decorated with many statues and motifs. And in the end of the garden is a statue of Neptune. This is a view from the garden, the background. So this is Neptune. I wrote here a few words about the legend and her deformity. And this is the gate to the garden. And I think that's all.
Thank you very much, Julia. But I wanted to ask you, because I am confused. How many villas Vilmarana are there? Just one?
No, no. There are two Varmaranas. The first one, Varmarana Lisiera, and the second one, which is located very close to Villa Capra, is Villa Varmarana Ainani. Ainani meaning dwarfs. It refers to small sculptures of figures. And in Vicenza, they have a chapel, Santa Corona. I presented here the project. I don't know if you can see. Here on the right. In Vicenza, they have 5 buildings, and in Venice, another 3. 2 of them, Palazzo Cornon Varmarana and Curti Varmarana in the San Marco district. And I think all of them are in Veneto region. But they have many projects designed by Palladios.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so if anyone wants to say anything about these presentations, if not, I'll begin with my own, which is like a survey of all the villas that, but it will be a quick overview of all the villas that Palladio built, with the exception of those that were only attributed to him, or some have been demolished. So it will be a quick overview of all his villas, and then we'll go to the contemporary Chicago-born architect Adrian Smith, whose birthday is today. So it's up to you. If you want to talk a little bit about what was shown until now, you can do so, of course. Otherwise, I will begin my own presentation. Well, I guess the silence, or I could wait a little longer, but the silence seems to say that you know, I can move on with the presentation, right?
Go for it.
Pardon?
Go forward then.
Please do something with your microphone because it's creating a strange noise. Okay, I begin. So again, it is nothing, you know, it will not be a major effort. I just want to, you know, to have an overview of his villas, and then we can, you know, understand perhaps better his significance in the field of architecture for this program. As you know, probably the name Palladio was given to him by a protector who helped him a lot. In fact, he even took him to Rome. It was a great, himself an intellectual and a scholar, and took him under his wing, so to speak. Ticino, I think, was his name. He changed his name. Palladio was not named Palladio. Palladio means the wise one, and is a reference to Athena, Pallas, the great Greek goddess. And maybe you know also Andrea Palladio established himself or started to be an architect only when he was 30. Until then, he was working as a, you know, kind of a stonemason, and he studied to work with stone. He had a very difficult contract with someone for 6 years, and he ran away from school. And here there is some similarity. I'm not trying in any way to compare Andrea Palladio with Adrian Smith, but being that one died on the very day when the other one was born, for me is like a capricious sign from fate that in some way we can talk about both today. What I want to say, Adrian Smith began the study of architecture in Texas at the University of Texas, and he ran away from it just as Andrea Palladio ran away from his apprenticeship for 6 years, and he was brought back because he had to respect the contract. Anyway, while Adrian Smith, he found a job with Skidmore, Owings and Merrill, the very important architectural firm SOM. And only afterwards, after some years, he completed his education in Chicago. Anyway, so I begin the rather quick journey through his villas. So Andrea Palladio, I forgot I had this text, so maybe I'll repeat something here, was an Italian Renaissance architect active in the Venetian Republic. Palladio, influenced by Roman and Greek architecture, primarily by Vitruvius, which is widely considered to be one of the most influential individuals in the history of architecture. While he designed churches and palaces, he was best known for country houses and villas. His teachings, summarized in the architectural treatise, The Four Books of Architecture, gained him wide recognition. So he was born on the 30th of November, which means this year, God willing, will arrive to this day, in 1508, and he died on the 19th of August, 1580. So he was 72, almost 72 years old when he died. The city, I'm sorry, the city of Vicenza, with its 23 buildings designed by Palladio and 24 Palladian villas of the Veneto, are listed by UNESCO as part of a World Heritage Site named City of Vicenza and the Palladian Villas of the Veneto. So right there, 47 buildings, incredible. The churches of Palladio are to be found within the Venice and its lagoon UNESCO World Heritage. So it is my invitation to all of you to have at least one building listed in the future UNESCO World Heritage. Would you please take care of that? Thank you. This is the portrait. You saw the portrait in the context of the Valmarana building that Julia so generously presented to us. I actually have some doubts about the great merit of this painter. Maybe it's an accurate, to an extent, portrait, but I prefer the one by El Greco. That one is attributed as representing Palladio, but the skill of the painter is much higher than the skill of this painter. That's a problem,
Dan?
you know. Pardon?
Sorry, are you sharing your screen because I cannot see it?
You mean I gave all this talk and you didn't see any image? Hello? You mean only now you are telling me you are not seeing the screen? It's unbelievable. I mean,
I'm not sure. I don't think I see it.
No, but I'm surprised you are the only one who tells me this, and only now. Why only now?
I was also going to tell you right now.
But why did you wait for so long? It's unbelievable. Anyway, I didn't show too much because I read, but Jesus, you should have told me from the first word. Anyway.
I wasn't sure.
What do you mean you were not sure? You didn't see it. Anyway, yeah, I always have this problem because when I give the right for someone else to use the screen, it seems I am although I didn't click on stop sharing, I'm thrown away from that screen sharing. Anyway, now you see it, right? Hello?
Yes.
Yes, now we can see.
But Jesus, why do I have to say hello? I mean, you should say immediately, yes, we do see it, or no, we don't see it. Anyway, 15 away, 1580. I read this, I'm not going to, this is the portrait that I was mentioning. And thanks to it, you told me now that you didn't see anything. Now, this was a minor painter. I'm very sorry for Palladio, but that is not really the portrait of a very wise man. I am sorry. You see, it's really a problem when the painter is not of great merit. It can ruin the best of faces. You know, if you want to see a beautiful portrait of Palladio, although it might not be Palladio because it's not known for sure, please search for El Greco's portrait of Palladio. I think in that portrait is Palladio, but nobody knows for sure. But even if it's not Palladio, I prefer to live with the illusion that that is Palladio and not this one. Because this one has the figure of someone who is rather puzzled and confused. I have a hard time to think that Palladio was a confused man. Anyway, some drawings. The beautiful drawing for Villa Capra. I love the drawings from the 4 books on architecture of Palladio. They are magnificent. And he doesn't use renderings, and yes, he doesn't use perspective, but is one of the most influential architecture books ever written. So we could reflect on that. No gimmicks, no expensive cars in front of Villa Capra, no seductive human beings trying to seduce you and ignore, you know, the deficiencies of the buildings. Just Euclidean representations of the buildings. Very honest, very simple, very sincere, but very, very effective and very sensitive. There is something else. There is often a distance between the idealized drawing and the reality of the building. I think Palladio lived himself the dilemma that many architects go through, because between the idealism of the scheme and the conditions of the erected building in the so-called reality, often there is a distance between the two. But it seems he needed also the idealism of the graphic representations of the buildings. Why? Because I think the architect is lives a double life. on one hand, the architect wants to build and builds, but on the other hand, there is the metaphysician, the architect as a metaphysician who is an intellectual who has a longing for abstraction, for the purity of a certain solution or scheme, and only sometimes the two overlap perfectly. Many times they don't. It is said that Le Corbusier, for example, he made many of his perspective drawings of various buildings after the buildings have been erected, but they seem to be sketches, you know, preliminary to the building. It seems, that's what I read, that it was not like that at all. So anyway, the drawing and the building are in some kind of a tension, and they are both necessary. And sometimes the drawing, I mean, even if you didn't see the built building, the Villa Capra, and look at this drawing, this is the representation of a perfect building. As Palladio often does, he uses the facade or the elevation to show also half of the section, because the buildings are symmetrical. Half of it is a section and the other half is an elevation. So it's a very effective and simple way to say a lot with you know, simple means. There are many books on his drawings, just as there are many books on his buildings. We are talking about a major force in architecture, if not the quintessential force. This is the only drawing I ever saw where there is some kind of a perspective. It is a perspective, but it's you know, kind of a primitive one. And until now, I just discovered it today. I was convinced for years that he never did a perspectival drawing, but I see one here. Anyway, it still looks a little strange, but maybe it is by him. That's what the information said. This is though a drawing with sketches, with, you know, like architects always do, you know, especially on the right side, you see the many, you know, little plans, you know, trying to find the essential one, the correct one, the ideal one, the best one. And these are drawings from the four books on architecture, the famous double helix stair that Leonardo apparently, or based on Leonardo's drawings, was built at the Chambord castle of François Premier in France, a great construction, and apparently the only one based on the drawings or the project of Leonardo. But the drawings are magnificent, they truly are. One of the first works by Palladio is this one. In fact, it's the first one that I found that was for sure by him, Villa Godi, began in 1537. So he was born in 1508. So he was 29 years old when he built this villa. For the Italians mention all the, you know, the relatives or whoever they are, you know, for whom the building was built. And sometimes it's a little bit confusing because, you know, there are various buildings built for the same, you know, for the same people, if they had, if they were affluent or rich enough. It's a good building. It's a good building. It's more abstract and more so-called modern than other buildings by him. And, you know, maybe strangely, is actually his first. There was another building before, but there the authorship is problematic. Here it is for sure. This is by Palladio. I like it. I like it also because it has a patina. It's not refurbished. I like the workings of time on buildings, although the buildings themselves might not like it. The idealized, many of his villas are composed like this with three parts, and they very rarely had been built like this for various reasons. But I think it's important to see what the initial intention of Palladio was. And those so-called peripheral buildings had their importance, and most of the time they were not built. So we are dealing with a reality that was only partly expressing the original thoughts of the great architect. Now, of course, there are all kinds of images of such, well-known, important buildings. There were, of course, especially the interior changes over time. We are dealing with buildings older than 450 years, and that's not such a short time. Now, before 1542, he built Villa Gazzotti for, again, several people in Vicenza. I love this picture. I don't even need to see the whole building because the brick is vibrating with life, and there is an open window, and there is a curtain, and behind that curtain I could imagine that certain activities take place. Anyway, but the building, even seen from further away, it does look, I think it's great. I would purchase it anytime if I had the means. And if it was for sale, but it's not for sale, it's for the other part of the story. Let's not even mention it. Anyway, this is the plan. Very simple, very symmetrical. Whoever is against symmetry should look at the drawings and the buildings of Palladio. I know all kinds of modernists cannot take symmetry, but there are symmetries and symmetries. God worked with a beautiful eye for symmetry. He understood betraying symmetries, because I think in nature we do not have perfect symmetries which end up in being perfectly cold. You have a symmetry with small betrayals, and there are small betrayals here too, almost unnoticeable, but the perception is that is a building that is alive. It's not rigid. And I've heard myself in 5 long conferences, Peter Eisenman try to express why is it that these buildings that are perfectly symmetrical and could have been rigid and frozen and paralyzed, they're actually alive. Well, this is the mystery of the knowledge of the wise one, of Palladio. He worked with relationships. He didn't really work with numbers as we use them today, with proportions, with relationships. Is a knowledge I do not have, and I don't know who has it these days. But it is not for nothing that he went to Rome 3 times, 2 times with Ticino, and the other times by himself, to study, to measure, to reflect on the great monuments of the Forum, the Roman Forum. So he looked backwards more than 1,500 years in order to learn about architecture.
Dan, can I ask a question?
Please.
Can you go back 1 slide, or maybe even this is fine. Like many of the buildings I see, it has a higher plinth, and the lower is probably a basement, or I don't know, a storage space. Probably it might be even be underground, a full story height. Now, except for Villa Foscari, where the steps are from the sides, all the others have the steps which are in the front. And this is my feeling that if the entrance is to the first floor, the steps don't look that good. So probably in Foscari he's done it from the sides, but in none of the villas the steps are from the sides. Do you have any explanation or anything regards to this?
Well, you saw the building where there are 2 stairs that Francesca presented, because you have to arrive at a higher level. I mean, it's preferable because the stair was actually in an L shape. Here, you cannot do that easily, and it's not necessary because it's not very high level you have to arrive at. But imagine you had to arrive at twice the height of what we have here. Then you would have to either have a very long and tiring stair, even with an interruption that is perpendicular in the center of the building. So I think a cause might have been this one because of the the higher level it had to arrive at. The stair had to be in L shape, and why are you disturbed by the stairs that were placed?
Yeah, in Villa Capra also there is the first floor entry and the stairs are in the front. Now, this is my general feeling that when you hide the stairs, like if you see Taj Mahal, the stairs are not in the front, they are from the sides and it's hidden by a wall. The building gets a model-like appearance, like you cannot judge the proportions, and it has this model-like appearance. But once you place the stair in the front, then you place proportion right there, like people will be able to judge. I don't know, for me the earlier building where the stairs are from the sides has a better appearance than Villa Capra, which has stairs from the front. It is 1 story high and the full stairs are there in that building, the one which Bogdan I think presented.
Yes, but Villa Capra is a very special building because it has those stairs are not just for domestic purposes to help one get into the building. Those are 4 stairs that honor the cosmos. I mean, it's the temple of man. I mean, stairs are not just to carry one from this floor to another floor. That is the prosaic function. But at Villa Capra, those stairs celebrate the connection between that building and the horizons. Of course, in order to get at that level, one stair is enough. And in most of his buildings, he used just 1 stair. At the most, like in the building shown by Francesca, 2 stairs. But those 4 stairs for Villa Capra have a different function. I would call it a metaphysical function. Anyway, we can talk about this some other time. Anyway, thank you, Vatsal. This is a drawing by Scamozzi. Some of the buildings that were already shown, I will show too, because it's this overview. But you see, this building, even if it is affected by the elements, it still has nobility, and this nobility derives from proportions. It's like you have a nobleman who is poor now, who lost his, his fortunes and so on. But if there is an inner nobility, then that can be seen even on the face of someone who is in the gutter, so to speak. So that's what I'm trying to say. Even if the building needs repairs, it still has authenticity and nobility. While on the other hand, if you have a building that is not noble in its essence, doesn't matter how well you take care of it, doesn't matter how many cosmetic surgeries you make, doesn't matter how much beautifications you use, you cannot hide its essential pros. Okay, Villa Valmarana, one of them, Julia, she's the master of this, is the one that was not built as, unfortunately, it was unfortunately not built as Palladio drew it. It would have been much better. Unfortunately, what was built is almost a caricature of what Palladio intended. You see, This is the noble thought of the architect, and this is the less noble accomplishment of the client in, who betrayed, the purity of the scheme. Anyway, because it's too flat, it's too horizontal, it is not what Palladio wanted. It's very clear. Anyway, yeah. So Villa Pisani, also an important building by him, but again, this long, this long list of beneficiaries, Bettore, Marco, and Daniele Pisani. Why are there so many? I mean, anyway, maybe it was a cooperative building, kind of. But even here, this is, I think, that the back, I'm not mistaken. Yes, this is the front. I don't know about those. Let's see actually in the, yeah, you see even here there are betrayals. The stair, I mean, look at that round stair, which looks funny. Those steps that go to the loggia, they look funny. They don't look like they have been designed by Palladio, and I don't think they have been. That's the problem, it's a problem with architecture, because there are many people involved, and a client could always change things because his whims are different, and it's a difficult. Yes, those stairs look ridiculous. I mean, those entrance steps, they don't look like they are made by Palladio, and they are not part of the plan. Anyway, but the surroundings are beautiful, and Italy is Italy, and the weather is fine. Unfortunately, there is a virus now that is very, very problematic, but we'll get over it. This is Villa Thiene. There is also Palazzo Thiene in Vicenza by Palladio, at least one, because now I'm beginning to think that there are at least 2-3 buildings for the same name. What is Marcantonio e Adriano Thiene, Quinto Vicentino. Re-elaboration of a project by Giulio Romano. Giulio Romano, great architect. I suggest to you to take a look at his works. This is also a fine building. It is. It was in a less generous space, but now Villa Saraceno, also in the province of Vicenza, also very, this is the art of sensitive austerity. That's why Palladio is still relevant, because his building, you cannot truly say that this is not, I would call it a contemporary building. It's a modern building. For me, it's a modern building. And his arches do not disturb me at all. Although when I see projects with arches, I say, you cannot do arches today. But somehow Palladio handles them in a very convincing and genuine way. Again, you see the building and you see the project, a different story. It is clear that Palladio didn't design objects, architectural objects. Palladio wanted the building to extend through this intermediate, this in-between as the building and the landscape. There are these additional spaces and courtyards and these extensions of the buildings that are very important, and unfortunately very rarely they had been realized or built the way he proposed it or proposed them. A great window that makes me nostalgic with the interior oblongs. Almost 500, 450 years old, this building. Villa Poiana, also very important by him, a very important drawing as well. It is very strange because I usually have a liking and an admiration and affection for the architect as a social worker. But in this case, I am not asking myself how come that Palladio was so fond of doing these works, obviously for the privileged ones, but what happened to the populace, you know, those many peasants or citizens of Vicenza who couldn't afford to have a building built by or designed by Palladio. Somehow a level of compassion or empathy is built in the most exquisite villas that he built. This is what I see. This is why I do not think his buildings are arrogant. Although the people he built them for, you know, maybe they were not arrogant, but they were privileged, of course. A great building. And look at the sculptures. They have a meaning. They have a, what would you do if you do not have them? You know, the building would be impoverished. Why is it we don't use sculptures any longer when there are sculptors in every country in the world who would give their lives to have the chance to contribute to buildings? We ignore them in the name of a very sterile and infuriatingly frigid so-called modernity that ruined the conjunction between the arts. And strangely, we claim that we are the offsprings of the Bauhaus, when in fact the Bauhaus advocated, if it advocated anything, was the conjunction of the arts. That conjunction we ignore with criminal obstinacy. I'm sorry for the strong words, but it's really very sad because there are painters and sculptors who barely make a living while the architects could benefit greatly from the collaboration. We live through strange times. You know, maybe the pandemic will teach us something to change our ways. Nobody says that we should use necessarily figurative sculptures. We could use abstract sculptures, but I think we could collaborate with the sculptor and the painter and other artists in magnificent ways. And we don't do it. In the name of what? In the name of impoverishing life. That's what it is. And then we complain that our surroundings are cold and so on. Well, that's why they are cold, because art is not present. The poor painter paints in the attic in despair and discouragement on his canvases on easels, instead of descending in the street and collaborating with the architect. Like here, you know, I mean, Francesca was so eloquent in showing us the importance of the painter in the building by Palladio. You know, why don't we use again the artists to collaborate with us? Why? After 50 Villa Chiericati, he also built a palace, the Chiericati in Venice, which was also not built quite the way he envisioned. Anyway, I love ruins, and I mean, look, just this corner. It's humanity, you know. Those sculptures have been battered by wind and rain and snow even, and yet they are still celebrating the connection between man and what is above, between the building and the sky, between culture and nature. And we need such celebrations again. This is my conviction. Scamozzi again. Now, what happens here? How come all of a sudden I arrived at, I think it's a mistake here, at Villa Capra, sorry. Villa Cornaro from 1552. You see, these buildings, usually we use the word beneficiary to describe just the client, just the one who pays for the building. But in my opinion, the beneficiary is all of us. The architect is a beneficiary because he or she has the chance to express his or her thoughts and feelings into a building, but also the chance to contemplate the building and hopefully have joy. Then the passers-by, whoever they are also beneficiaries. Just like I was a beneficiary when I went and I looked through the fence because I couldn't get into the, to the courtyard of Villa Capra. But I was a beneficiary because I benefited from seeing it from far away. So I think the word beneficiary should be applied to everyone. And this is also, this creates a responsibility for the builder and for the client and for the architect, because if you know that what you build is actually meant for everyone at a certain level, of course, not everybody uses the building in the same way, but if we think holistically, then there is a heavier but also more splendid responsibility on everyone, on the architect, on the builder, on the contractor, on the client, and so on. Because architecture is a public art, even if when it is, let's say, for private commissions. Because a building is not an object that you hide in your own drawer. That's why I have great difficulties to accept this language, the architectural object. I am sorry, a pyramid is not an object. Chartres Cathedral is not an object. Not even a humble hut, if it's done to be connected with its environment, is not an object. But I've heard very famous architects use the word object when they describe a building, including Rem Koolhaas. He all the time uses this word, the architectural object. Come on, Mr. Koolhaas, please. Please, you should know better. Architecture is beyond making objects. I mean, would you call this an object? I would insult it. I'm sorry. I don't know. I really don't know what is so wrong, with so many architects today that they don't understand the building is not an object. Villa Pisani, I'm getting carried away by emotions here. Maybe I should, be more reticent or subdued. Anyway, you see here, this is a lesson in architecture, including for myself, because I never knew how to call this. This is in Italian, trabezione, tetto, muro, muro tu, balustrada, balaustra. This I almost know, columns. Anyway, sorry, this is information. I better use these beautiful drawings, which don't give a lot of information, you see. There are no dimensional, sub-dimensional notations suffocating the drawing. No, just a few notations. Maybe these were his working drawings to an extent. Can you imagine what a beautiful life architects had when you don't have to go through that terror, with contract documents where, God, in the United States project, the contract documents consist on tens of pages of regulations and all kinds of stipulations and legislative matters. And then you go through drawings which are unbelievably detailed, where everything is counted and measured and look at this drawing, in just a few notations. How many numbers do we have here? Very few. I truly believe there is a terror of numbers. We are terrorized by numbers today. That's why I hate telephones, and mobile phones and all these, because they all operate with numbers. God, too many numbers. You can't breathe when you have so many numbers. Look here, the Palladio, 8.5, 1.6, almost nothing. 1.6, 1.7, 1.8, 1.9, 1.10, 1.11, 1.12, 1.13, 1.14, 1.15, 1.16, 1.17, 1.18, 1.19, 1.20, 1.21, 1.22, 1.23, 1.24, 1.25, 1.26, 1.27, 1.28, 1.29, 1.30, 1.31, 1.32, 1.33, 1.34, 1.35, 1.36, 1.37, 1.38, 1.39, 1.40, 1.41, 1.42, 1.43, 1.44, 1.45, 1.46, 1.47, 1.48, 1.49, 1.50, 1.51, 1.52, 1.53, 1.54, 1.55, 1.56, 1.57, 1.58, 1.59, 1.60, 1.61, 1.62, 1.63, 1.64, 1.65, 1.66, 1.67, 1.68, 1.69, 1.70, 1.71, 1.72, 1.73, 1.74, 1.75, 1.76, 1.77, 1.78, 1.
Hello, Dan.
Yes,
Let me just add something to what you are saying.
please.
I mean, it's so beautiful that these drawings are quite pure in a way. There is no
Yes.
notes or numbers or anything. And the good thing that Palladio did, he wrote the Quadro Libre, and in that he clearly explained how to build a column and or the arch or the proportions of the squares to the rectangles and the whole building to, parts of the building to each other. So in a sense, he's done all the writing in a book, and then he's doing his drawings, as we see. So the kind of writings do not need to go on these drawings any further.
You mean there is no need for additional dimensioning because he explains the essence of building certain parts of the building through words, no?
He does, yes.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, really, I envy him today. In order to make to receive the approvals on the working drawings, you have to suffocate the drawings with an unbelievable amount of information. Of course, we also have many things that he didn't have to handle or take care of, like electrical outlets, for example. He didn't have this problem, and other so-called great achievements of progress. Anyway, now Villa Barbaro, which we already saw, and we are happy that it was a very nice presentation. I hope you all agree that tomorrow, in fact, we should allow Francesca not to attend until the end today so she can go home. I mean, she's probably home, but to prepare for the presentation tomorrow. From now on, I will have great difficulties to imagine that Francesca will not make other presentations. Sorry, Francesca, if you are still here. She's probably not because she's...
No, I am. I am here.
Okay. So, since I know you don't sleep, please dedicate your night to Saarinen, Eliel Saarinen, and Eero Saarinen, and see you tomorrow. I'm joking a little.
Will be fun.
Not totally. No, really. I mean, tomorrow. I mean, this evening, I'm going to write to the president of the university that I found a great person to be part of the faculty to teach architecture to the students. 19 years old. I'm not joking. I am going to write.
No. Don't over exaggerate, please.
But I don't exaggerate. I'm sorry. Everybody heard you. Everybody saw what you can do at 19. So sorry. You cannot erase what you already did. I'm sorry. I have it recorded, actually. It's recorded. It's for eternity. Anyway, yeah, a great building, one of his greatest, and because it was realized more as he intended it to be realized. Even the cloud is happy here, the cloud is probably painted on the sky, on the real sky by El Greco, the mystic, the great mystic painter. But I think here you didn't mention, Francesca, is it not a solar clock there on the facade?
It is a solar clock, and there are two, one on each of the two wings.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I skipped that part.
It's okay. Great work, Andrea. You deserve the name of Palladio. Yes, well, Francesca, I'm not going to, in any way, even if I tried, I could not compete with you in your description of this villa. Impossible. You achieved perfection. Villa Foscari called La Malcontenta that you talked about as well. I want to see again architects and students just as enthusiastic about Francesca. In fact, she didn't have to talk about any building. She talked instead about 3 buildings. This is what passion can do. Just imagine what we all can do if we have a similar passion. We can do wonders, we can change the world, and we can change ourselves. Sorry, Francesca, for being exuberant. I love these stairs, you know. I mean, look, no parapets. Of course not, but as opposed to, you know, kind of a similar, at least on one side, stair done by Le Corbusier, this is wide. This is wide. Here you are not at the risk of falling like he was in the building in Ahmedabad. Anyway, Palladio is Palladio. He doesn't. I mean, look, it's like a lava. The building is flowing towards the earth on the sides. Those stairs, I like architectonic lava, you know, geometrical lava, very, very fluid. Although they don't use curves, but they are very, very fluid and very. I think they are very beautiful. What else?
Dan?
Pardon?
So Vatal had a question earlier about which you already discussed, but
Yeah.
I want to have another look at this building, at the stairs and how they are positioned. And my answer to his questions as to why the stairs are positioned in this way was that the building looks more dominant in this way. It looks more somewhat more dramatic to me.
Yeah, then even I felt that this way of having the stairs is better than the one he has in the front. This looks much better. Uh, it gives a more grand feeling to the building.
Well, anyway, perceptions are subjective, but I like these stairs very much. Okay, this is the back of the villa, somehow in a better shape than the front. I like very much this black and white picture. But the chimneys here seem to be different from other buildings by him. It's almost some kind of Muslim touch, the Islamic touch. I don't know. They're a little bit different than in other buildings. In other buildings, I didn't even notice them. Anyway, I'm not a great analyst, and in fact, there are 4. Yeah, I thought there were 2. No, 4. 4 little minarets, in a way. Strange, interesting. Anyway, we'll talk more about this next year, because this is nice about birthdays, celebrations, that God willing, you know, we'll have a chance every year to, on the 19th of August, to pay homage to the great architect. And the garden, I don't know if this is original, but it doesn't matter. This is the side view of the building. I love those stairs anyway. Another Villa Zeno. This is also was not built, I think, just as he wanted it, or maybe I'm wrong. I saw only pictures which are kind of like this one, not very. It looks like an abandoned building, and it wouldn't be the first one by Palladio. You'll see another one. Now, Villa Badoer, called the La Badoera, for Francesco Frata Polesina. I love these names. Well, they are private villas, so, you know, of course the inhabitants are, but you'll never see, for example, the falling water to tell you the names of the inhabitants. No, you only see Villa Savoie built by Le Corbusier. And the same with, Villa Savoie by Le Corbusier, or the Falling Water by Frank Lloyd Wright. You don't see the names of the clients. That's what I mean. But here, and this is, I think, interesting and significant. The names of the people who, you know, ordered the building and who live there are mentioned. They are part of the story, and I think this is important. We know nothing, absolutely nothing, about the Savoy family who lived in the Villa Savoy, and we know nothing except the experts about the Kaufmann family who lived, and they even buried there, you know, at Falling Water. We only know of the architect. Anyway, Italians always know better because they have the great tradition. And anyway, yes, you see, when you have these auxiliary buildings, you have a more complete feeling about what Palladio wanted to do. And who cares that some of these frescoes are not in good shape or they're almost gone? It's okay. Even as remnants, they seem to be very inspiring, for me at least. Villa Emo, I rushed a little bit because I do want to show you the work of that not quite modest Chicagoan. Or maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong. He might build the tallest skyscrapers in the world, but maybe he's modest. I don't know. Now you see here, you have a central stair, and I think for this building is adequate because you have a very long facade, and then you have this very long perpendicular on the facade. Much longer than this drawing suggests, as you can tell. Very abstract, very simple, very, you know, excellent. Excellent modern work, Mr. Palladio. You anticipated architecture with at least 400 centuries earlier. You see here how long that stair is. Of course, it's a ramp, actually. Maybe that's why, you know, they replaced the stairs with a ramp, because the angle is that of a ramp, not of a staircase. I don't know about those sofas. You know, it is said that Oscar Wilde, when he died, I think he died at 37. Anyway, his last words, Oscar Wilde's words were, either that wallpaper goes or I go. And then he went. Now, sorry, I hope I will not go, but I feel like saying either those two sofas go or I'll go. Those sofas do not belong to this space. I am very sorry. Italians sometimes, like Renzo Piano, can be strange in their aesthetical decisions, although they are great masters of aesthetical matters. But those are obviously not from Palladio's time, and it shows. Anyway, otherwise, of course, the splendor of the Italian talent, the frescoes, and you know, the next time, of course, Francesca will describe in detail and even discover some obscure dogs that are painted, I don't know where, or even little exotic birds or things like this, and even tell us a few jokes about that. Incredible. I was very impressed, Francesca, sorry. Villa Valmarana, which I thought was the same building, but now I learned, thanks to Julia, that there are two Valmarana buildings. This one is I feel like moving there right now because it's abandoned, obviously. It's an abandoned Palladio building. Can you believe it? And it's probably on the list of the UNESCO heritage. The plants are taking over. Anyway, look at this. It's abandoned. It's an abandoned UNESCO heritage building. Incredible. It's just incredible. Anyway, drawings, splendor in the grass. Again, the poor abandoned building. Can you imagine how rich Italy is that it can afford to abandon a Palladio building? It's just, it only shows the level of excellence that they achieved, you know, where they just, okay, you know, so what? It's another building by Palladio, so what? Why do we have to live there? Or why do we have to take care of it? We can just as well abandon. unbelievable. Villa Serego. This is different. This is a different building by Palladio by all means. And it's not very clear to me what's going on here. I tried in a hurry, it's true, in a hurry. This is the only excuse I had because I prepared this. I had another presentation, but it is the habit with me. I keep losing them. I have too many and I'm not organized. So if you find, one of you finds a PowerPoint presentation with Palladio somewhere in the gutter on the sidewalk, would you please let me know? Yeah. Sorry about this. Of course, some people put their signature everywhere, so you don't steal the picture. This capitalists. Villa Capra, about which Bogdan spoke eloquently, and he does speak even without needing our words. It's the perfect building, and Goethe was right about it. I wouldn't call it though so banal. I mean, to me, you know, this building doesn't appear to me to be banal, neither outside nor inside. Although its geometry is kind of transparent to the trained eye to an extent, but it's the one and only Villa Capra. We saw the drawing. We didn't see this picture. I'm approaching the end because this was indeed finalized by Scamozzi and 20 years after Palladio's death. And this is, I think, the last one, Villa Porto, and then we'll go to Adrian Smith. But before we go to Adrian Smith, I will surprise you with another Adrian Smith. Okay, this is, they say, unfinished. It's unfinished because it doesn't have that wing probably completed. Otherwise, it looks just finished to me. This is another interesting thing, you see. So this is an unfinished building, but the sculptures are there, meaning the sculptures at that time were not considered accessories that were added to the building just as you would add some decorative little item to the completed wall of a building. In other words, the need for beauty should be simultaneous with the other needs, you know, to have the building stand up. And so beauty is not something you add after the building was erected, or like you know, my parents used to tell me when I was a kid, you know, Dan or Danos, I don't know exactly how they address me. You know, poetry always goes through the stomach. In other words, you have first to eat and then you have to write a poem. And with all my affection for my parents, I would say that sometimes this is not the case. The poet who has vocation of a poet can write sometimes the poem before he eats. And this is what Van Gogh did when he painted. You know, they are not in this. Of course, we all have to eat in order to survive, of course. But I think the urge to express, as Louis Kahn said, spirit in will to express can make the great sun seem small. This is what Kahn wrote, and he was right. Spirit in will to express can make the great sun seem small. Now, of course, you cannot make the great sun seem small by saying, well, sorry, I cannot express my spirit before I eat an omelet. That's not how it works. So again, this is an unfinished building, but the sculptures are up, meaning the need for beauty was already present and honored. Maybe the sculptures were even done before the building was, I don't know. Anyway, we need beauty, and sometimes even without eating our omelet, we need beauty. Because without it, life is unbearable, really. Okay, thank you. Now, before I go to Adrian Smith, I want you to say hello to another Adrian Smith, who just happens to be named Adrian Smith, and let me see, because I'm a little bit confused. I hate this about Zoom, that now I'm not sure. Do you see the screen with YouTube? Hello?
Yes.
Yes.
You do? Okay, excellent. Now, please be ready for some rock and roll. Adrian Smith, The City of Dreams. Okay, the name of the... This is Adrian Smith, the singer. Okay, so now we go to the real city of dreams, because Adrian Smith, he's a famous guitarist, and he also sang, you know, this song is called the City of Dreams. So now we go to the so-called real city of dreams, which is the capitalistic paradise, which frightens me a little bit, in which Adrian Smith, the architect, so there are two Adrian Smiths. One is the singer, the guitarist, and the other one, the architect. But the one who was born today is the architect. And about him, I'm going to talk now. I hope you see the, you see the you know, the page, right?
Yes.
Okay, so born in 1944, so he's 76 years old today. This is not him, this is the singer, Iron Maiden guitarist Adrian Smith. Adrian Smith, the architect now. So we are going to talk about the architect. Smith spent many years at Skidmore, Owings and Merrill, SOM, in Chicago, beginning in 1967, and was a design partner from 1980 to 2003, 23 years, and the consulting design partner from 2003 to 2006. In 2006, he founded Adrian Smith plus Gordon Gill, or Gill, I forgot how to pronounce, architecture, which is dedicated to the design of high performance, energy efficient, and sustainable architecture on an international scale. In 2008, he co-founded the MAP firm of positive energy practice, which specializes in the environmental engineering of high performance, energy efficient architecture. This is the gentleman. He was born in Chicago, and SOM has offices in various parts of the world, but the main one is in Chicago. And by the way, to the students, they have a great fellowship, traveling fellowship. Try to do work as good as possible and send it to Chicago, to SOM, because you could get a very generous fellowship. In fact, there was a Romanian student who studied at Cooper Union in New York, I forgot her name, who received that very generous traveling fellowship from SOM. He looks like a high priest of architecture, dressed up for the occasion. This is the famous tower that you all know, of course, and he was the designer. He seems to be quite relaxed. I wouldn't be so relaxed if I designed such a building, but he seems to be relaxed. Now, an early work that he did with SOM in 1980, the Banco de Occidente. I'm not going to show in detail these buildings that he built while he worked for SOM, although he was in a way the creator, he was the designer, and these buildings are shown on his present website, which is his own independent practice. So this was the bank. This is another bank. This is the problem. I do have a problem with this proliferation of buildings celebrating capitalism so ostentatiously, almost, you know. The power of the banks, you know, the power of money, the power of covering the earth with monumental buildings. But what do they actually, in actuality, celebrate? I'm a little bit afraid of a future in which we cover the whole earth with, I would say, a certain level of human arrogance. But this is my peculiar relationship with capitalism and with money, or maybe it's not peculiar. But there are clearly architectural qualities present here, and SOM does build good buildings. I once wrote myself an essay on them under the title SOM, but without SOS, because I think the level of danger, existentially speaking, is not sufficiently high. But they are very, very efficient, very, very well organized, and you know, they build some very good buildings over the many years since they practice. It's a big corporation and a big office, very big and very successful. This is another building from 1986, but I couldn't find pictures. Another one from Boston. You know, the unfortunate decade, you know, the 80s, you know, where, postmodernism affected so many architects. But even here, you cannot not recognize the quality of the building and, you know, a certain authenticity in terms of, monumentality. Now, NBC Tower from 1989, they built many buildings. The AT&T from 1991. I am only showing you the works where Adrian Smith was the designer in London. This you can tell it's Europe, and you see it shows the ability to honor a certain context that is the Arab world, or in this case London, accordingly. This is not any longer a building crafted for the North American context, but for London. And it shows that there is a versatility, though, present in the works of SOM, which must be acknowledged. A building in Dhahran is Saudi Arabia. I don't know. I mean, for me, this is a commercial building, and it doesn't matter how impressive it is. I cannot ignore its function. The Washington University Psychology building from 1996 in St. Louis, which I don't have pictures with, and the tower in Shanghai from 1998. And tower it is indeed. It's well built, and you see the progression of those almost pagoda-like fragments or parts of the building, decreasing towards the top of the building. Again, it is an homage to the local culture. It is a tower, but it has a narration, and the narration is, we are in China, and China has slender pagodas, kind of similar to this bank. This is not a pagoda, it's a commercial tower, but it has a certain level of sophistication and sensitivity that I think should be appreciated. It's well built, and it's impeccably built. And this picture from the website of SOM is, magical in a way, because it has something almost mystical about it. I'm talking about the photograph. Here you see the building in the context of other buildings. Anyway, a bank in Boston from 2002, so he was still working at that time for SOM. He worked for a very long time for SOM, it's true, Sao Paulo. I don't know, not every building. I prefer the previous one to this one, but what can we do? It's also a question of taste. Now, the General Motors Renaissance Center from 2003 in Detroit. Now, of course, the word Renaissance related to Detroit can be, debated. Detroit was a city and still is, but it was a ravished city, economically totally unable of a new Renaissance or Renaissance. But capitalism is not a system that appreciates, lamentations. So here we have the less than modest complex of buildings called Renaissance, General Motors Renaissance. Now, what do General Motors do? They do build cars. Those very cars that Kenneth Frampton said that they destroy the city and they destroy urban life. And they build a lot and a lot and a lot, and they are shipped everywhere in the world. And I wonder, when is this madness going to stop? And then we start wars in order to get the oil that is crucial to most of these cars. That now we also have hybrid cars and some electrical cars, But in essence, it seems that if there was no pandemic, we would continue the maddening running and running and running and running and producing cars and cars and cars and cars, you know. And I wonder, you know, when will this stop? You know, because maybe Pascal was right. All the troubles of human beings are born from the fact that we cannot stand still in a room. You know, like now we have to do, because this virus is forcing us to reconsider our modus vivendi. I mean, look at this Renaissance Center. You know, we are just after an interesting trip to the works of Palladio. Now compare what Palladio did with these buildings. You know, these buildings are celebrating, I think, the level of simplifications, excessive simplifications that humans sometimes arrive at in their quest for, you know, profit, because this is what we are talking about. We are talking about profit, you know, profit and profit and profit and money and money and money, while there is unbelievable level of poverty in Detroit, which is not shown by such you know, self-congratulatory images. Anyway, back to less criticism. This is a building, another glorious building in Boston, celebrating again the power of the human beings. Before the human being had to put a mask on, so the virus would not enter his breathing system. Yes, splendors, you know, but splendors whose raison d'etre is actually profit. Profit and again profit. International banking headquarters. Look at it, you know, much, 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 much taller than any tree. I'm afraid, I confess, I am afraid of this humanity, because this humanity doesn't know its limits. And I think it's a problem. Anyway, we'll talk some other time about this. This is the first building that was built. No, I'm confused. No, there is another one in Seoul that was built just by Adrian Smith and his partner. So independently from SOM. Yes, these architectural mammoths scare me. Again with SOM from 2004, and now we arrive at Adrian Smith and Gordon Gill. Could anyone, Francesca, for example, would you please tell me how to pronounce correctly the family name of Gordon's family name?
Well, I'm not sure, but I will look that up on Google.
No, but tell me now, because I'm sure you know.
I think it's Jill.
Thank you, Professor.
I'm not sure.
No, thank you, Professor. So here they are. On the left, Adrian Smith. On the right, Gordon Gill. Gill, no? You said Professor Gill? Professor?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, thank you, Professor. So it's Gill, Gordon Gill. Okay, and here they are again. They are obviously very serious men. I mean, you know, to build such buildings, you cannot play games. And now, from 2013, the Seoul FKI Tower. Now, strangely, this was supposed to, I'm not even sure this is a rendering or it is a picture of the building being built, because the renderings sometimes are so impeccable that they look more real than the real. It is probably built, and unfortunately, with my eyeglasses, I cannot see in detail. Well, I can almost see. I admire this side of Adrian Smith. I think he is a very, very astute and careful craftsman. You know, this facade is not a play with form. I think he's honestly interested in addressing the energy related you know, problems or realities of the building in the best possible way. And you can see on the scheme on the right that he does so. So if you want to make the project for a tower, an office tower or a skyscraper, I think you can learn a lot from Adrian Smith, from someone like him, yes. Because he has the experience and, you know, he designed and he built and he doesn't ignore beauty or design, but he's also very interested in what you see here. So from this point of view, I think he is an architect we can learn from and admire. And yes, the building was built, although I'm still not very sure if it's not a rendering. But I think it's a picture of the building, yes, like this one too. It's a good building, and again, you see the technical drawings are important. Palladio didn't have to handle such matters, but for the present, I think going beyond the discussion about you know, capitalism and so on, one can only admire the level of seriousness and inspiration and hard work put into these so-called details. I admire them, although I'm not a very technical person, but, or maybe that's why I admire them. Because this is architecture. I see architecture, I see the skilled architect in these details. Maybe I shouldn't even call them details, you know, they are architecture. Okay, so the building was built in Seoul, and it looks convincing, it looks efficient somehow at the level of building such a building. Personally, I think that any building of such a stature in terms of dimensions cannot be too efficient, but in its, considering its reality and its conditions, you know, it probably is more than other skyscrapers or towers. So this is the practice. Adrian Smith and Gordon Gill, professor. Waldorf Astoria. We are dealing here with heavy duty names. Waldorf Astoria, very expensive brand name, but in Beijing, of course, 2014, the strange communism of China, you know, absorbing the most extravagant forms of capitalism. This is also a fine building, but it turns me off a little bit. Well, I guess luxury was always present in, you know, maybe there was a level of, I mean, again, how many people of Vicenza or, you know, the villages around Vicenza afforded, you know, frescoes by Veronese or I don't know what painter. No, only the nobility afforded them, you know, and only part of the nobility. So in this case, we have those people who afford, you know, such an expensive brand name like Waldorf Astoria, and the building is a luxurious building, and it shows. You know, it's very well crafted, and the materials used are very, you know, expensive and good. This is not an arte povera building. No, it proclaims the obvious. We are dealing with the elite here, and you see it from the rug at the entrance. The W and the A, interestingly intertwined. I am sure you can find on the net information about why he created these windows in this way, because I don't think it's just an aesthetical reason. He's too serious of an architect to let form decide. I mean, form alone decide something like this. Expo 2017 in Kazakhstan, but they didn't win the competition, or it was not built. You only see the project. Is becoming a little Adrian Smith. I imagine he's the designer of the two partners, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they both design. But I know he's he is the designer there. Maybe he complements him just like Adler complemented Louis Sullivan in the Adler-Sullivan company. I don't know about this building. It's a little burlesque what is happening for my taste there in the center, but I don't want to sound cynical, but I almost said fortunately it was not built. Because sometimes these expos, you know, they create bonanza buildings. Although you'll see a building built for this year that is much more convincing and interesting, also in terms of structure. Anyway, he did it, they did it, people seem to be happy. This was prior to the pandemic. And again, I think that sphere in the center looks burlesque for my taste. Now we know, everybody knows now the name of Wuhan. Wuhan. No, I don't know Chinese, but we know that that's where the pandemic came from, apparently. Nobody knows for sure, but apparently. So he was proposing this tower, which I'm a little bit confused because I tried to see pictures of it being built. It was supposed to be done by 2019. I don't know why I couldn't find pictures, or maybe some are already pictures with it being built. I mean, yes, with a real building, not just conceptual drawings. This is the tower, and it is it is tall indeed. I think they started the construction, yes. And maybe it's even finished, the Wuhan Greenland Center. Now, this Greenland, you know, I don't know how green it is really. I think that school that I showed 2 days ago, the green school in Indonesia, was much more green because it was built with bamboo. This, can you imagine, you know, how much fire was necessary to process that steel that was used in this building? I mean, this was not built with bamboo. So, you know, some of these words are really demagogical. I'm sorry to say it, you know. It doesn't matter how sophisticated. In fact, the more sophisticated the technology used to, I don't know, bring in fresh air or whatever, the more I think the level of betraying the green ideals is present. Anyway, yes, here you see it, but I didn't see a picture with it being, maybe it's not finalized. But it is a human adventure, and I admire human adventures in general. You know, it's an innovative building which requires an immense collective effort, and in this sense, we can applaud it. But its modesty is still questionable for me. But maybe, you know, it's not the place here for modesty. Anyway, I launched myself a competition called Babylon Redux, and I sent the text to Kenneth Frenton and to ask his opinion. And he said, I don't know enough about Babylon, but I can tell you the future belongs to agro-urbanism and to storing, or no, he used a different word, to, I always forget this word, to collect, in essence, this is to collect rainwater. In other words, he was very pessimistic about the future, that we return to doing agriculture in the cities and we return to collect rainwater because the abuse, I mean, we abuse the earth immensely. You know, we consume so much water that at one moment we won't have water any longer. And in fact, there are many areas in the world that do not have water. So yes, to collect rainwater might become, maybe not too late, not too far away from now, a reality. That's why I'm a little bit bothered, and more than a little bit, by these triumphalist towers that we build all over the world. Anyway, The climate change is forcing us to rethink certain things. This is a tower that was also supposed to be finalized by this year in China. And these are two plans for it. He likes to work with these, crystal-like geometrical configurations. It's not bad, I think. What's his name? This German architect who built the glass pavilion. My memory is obviously falling apart. I feel like saying Max Bill, but it's not Max Bill. Anyway, this is the tower. And I don't know if the construction started, but it was supposed to be done, if I understood correctly, by 2020. And we are in 2020. It looks impressive. It looks interesting. You know, it has all these facets. Again and again, this is the message to the students: study software, because without software, you cannot find a job these days. Study software as much as you can. It's impossible to practice architecture today without knowing digital programs. It's impossible. You cannot even collaborate with your, the other office workers because they work digitally and you cannot work manually. It's impossible. You have to know software. The more, the better. And the quicker, the better. I mean, nobody works any longer manually in architecture offices. Nobody. Now, a tower for New York City, this one unfortunately has a very ungraceful publicity on their own website. And unfortunately, I couldn't copy it. I wanted to copy it and paste it on this PowerPoint presentation. It didn't allow me to, and I couldn't, I don't know, nothing worked. So I was able to, a fragment of that ungraceful publicity, I was able to reproduce here, but not all of it. You'll see it now. Something was written before: the most prestigious addresses in the world. That is the billionaires quarter in New York City. And I find it so vulgar, immensely vulgar. And actually it hurts me a lot that a man of obviously the capacity of Adrian Smith allows, and you can verify, you can open his website or their website and you can see these words, these triumphalist words, because it's about triumphalism, that in this billionaires quarter, the most prestigious addresses in the world. What does that mean, the most prestigious addresses in the world? Just because there are billionaires living there, this is what makes an address so-called prestigious? I mean, for me, that abandoned building by Palladio in Italy is more of a so-called prestigious address than the street of the billionaires, offering endless views, exquisite architecture, gracious layouts, and an unprecedented level of service. Central Park Tower will be the definitive New York skyscraper. Please forgive me, this level of, inflated PR marketing practices turn me off terribly. Terribly. And it might be that climate change and all the other disasters we are confronted with are exactly because of this level of lack of sensitivity, that such a publicity is present on the website of the architects, not of the real estate speculators. This is what saddens me immensely. And anyway, open their website. And I mean, I'm here to say happy birthday, Adrian Smith, but I cannot abstain for expressing some serious concerns I have. And here is the tower. Well, you barely see it, although you can tell it's the tallest. What does it mean, the tallest? Architecture is about quality, it's not about quantity. Although somebody told me that here in Romania there are priests, church figures who go to the architect and tell them tell him, I want a taller church than the one built there or there. It's this human vanity that ruins the earth, it's incredible. Even a man of God, a priest, wants his vanity to manifest itself. The same vanity that, the king that almost killed Master Manole entrapped him now in the church afterwards because he didn't want another king to have the chance for another great building to be built. This competition between human beings in the name of vanity is very, very malevolent to the world and to everybody. Central Park Tower to become world's tallest residential skyscraper. It would be the tallest for a matter of months, at the most a year, because then another one, even taller, will come up without question. So there we have it, What does it mean, the tallest, It means nothing. Sales of the ultra high-end residences at Central Park Tower are slated to commence imminently as the structure continues to rise at 225 West 57th Street, designed by Adrian Smith and Gordon Gill, professor. The skyscraper is expected to reach 1,550 feet, that is 472 meters tall, when it completes in 2019. Well, the Chinese will come and then will laugh at this number 1,500. That means nothing. And they will do one that will be 2,000 feet and so on. And then the Arabs will come and will build one 2,500. So it's all irrelevant. As this building, which was also considered to be the tallest, but now comes Calatrava and will build one even higher. And in fact, even taller. And even Smith will do one that is taller. So this will never end. It surprises me that people of great intellectual capacity and with all kinds of positive attributes do not understand the banality of their quest for building the tallest and the highest. And, this childish competition destroys the resources of the earth, destroys the climate, destroys so many things. And for what? This is my question. For what? Yes, this is the building. And it is, of course, it's something to appreciate that human beings like me and you were able to build such a building. Maybe architecturally doesn't have a lot of grace, although it does have a certain complexity of movement. And yes, it is unbelievable now that it was built so high. But if we go in this rhythm and if the pandemic ends, we'll probably build in a number of a few years twice as high, or I don't know what, because we never stop. The human vanity never stops. So, soon this building might seem like a very small little building, not tall at all. Although now it is almost unacceptably tall. And I think I have a picture with it going above the clouds. Is this quality or quantity? What is it? I mean, 4 people talked about Palladio today. Did any of you hear the word the tallest or the widest or the longest? No. This was not the preoccupation of Palladio to make the tallest or the longest or the widest building. No. I'm sorry, these architects are doing a disservice to architecture. Architecture is about quality, not quantity. It's about the immeasurable, not the measurable. I'm sure Adrian Smith knows about Kant. I'm sure he knows the definition of a great building that Kant gave to us. How come he ignores it? And how come all the other speculators that speculate the dimensions of the building forget that true quality is not about the measurable, it's about the immeasurable. In other words, about quality, not quantity. I mean, is this a picture that infuses in us optimism or pessimism? I am asking you. To me, it's an apocalyptical image because it shows that we forgot to live under the sky as Heidegger asked us to do. No, nothing is enough for us any longer. And now, of course, as a logical consequence, we want to leave the earth, to run away after we destroy it, or just before we ruin it. Of course, the mega tall professor, how do I pronounce this? Jeddah, because I know you also know Arabic. Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Anyway,
It's Jeddah. And by the way, about earlier, it's Gil. I checked.
It's Gil. Okay, thank you, Professor. I truly appreciate your modesty and your thoroughness. You know, the fact that you want to, you know, arrive at the bottom of the matter. So again, how do I pronounce correctly this?
Jeddah, without the H at the end.
So Jeddah.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Professor. So it's beautiful when professors show up of the intellectual stature of our professor. I am very happy about this because I can learn, you know, on the spot. I ask the professor, and the professor has the answer. This is Jeddah, and the other one is Gil, right? Gil. Anyway.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay. So look at them. Look at the boys. This is a boys' club. This is the competition between the so-called, bad boys. You know, who builds the tallest? And you know, this diagram or whatever it is, this picture, in less than a year will be complemented by another picture with buildings taller and taller and taller and taller. I mean, do you see here the Eiffel Tower? Of course not. Even this building, which is, well, it's not, but is similar. Where is the one that I just showed in Shanghai by Smith and Gill? Anyways, it's about here, and look at it. You know, the Kingdom Tower. You know, which will be 1 kilometer tall. But wait a minute, this is nothing compared to the hyper modesty, if I can sarcastically call it so, of Frank Lloyd Wright, who proposed, you know, 70 years ago, a 1 mile tall tower. 1 mile. This is a 1 kilometer. But we'll arrive if the pandemic doesn't destroy all of us and other terrible monsters having to do with the climate change. We'll arrive at the 1 mile too and go well beyond it, of course. And look at that. Look at the poor Eiffel Tower, how pathetically small it is. Ay, ay, ay. But strangely, we call this progress. There is not progress, I'm sorry, because again, they are not concerned with the immeasurable, they are concerned with the measurable. Work on the mega tall tower resumes after delays, so it is being built. You see it here. There is a desert around it, of course, because, you know, God, on one hand, it is impressive, you know, here are human beings like you and me, like me and you, building something like this, hallucinatingly tall. The expo in Dubai. Now, this is kind of an interesting new pantheon, built 2,000 years after Emperor Adrian, also Adrian, kind of funny, but with an H in front of it, built a apparently, he played the architect for the Pantheon in Rome. This is what Adrian Smith, probably inspired a little bit by Emperor Adrian in Rome, built. It's actually built in Dubai. And the structure is very interesting. I don't know about this you know, maybe he was trying to kind of imitate a little bit Villa Rotonda with his four. I don't know. There are four, but not in a cross configuration. But the structure is very elaborate, and you'll see some pictures better than this and better than this here. You know, during construction, I usually like building sites because you see the complexity, you see the viscerality of the building, and it is impressive, you know, and it's almost as good like in the green school done with bamboo in Indonesia, but this is not that with bamboo at all. And it's built. It is built, and maybe they even use some robots. I don't know. I thought that these rusty things are robots, but maybe not, or maybe yes. I don't know. It is built, and it is. It does show truly the force of technology. Practically, we can build almost anything. So this is in Dubai. It was built. So the latest architecture news from Adrian Smith and Gordon Gill. Adrian Smith and Gordon Gill Architecture has unveiled new images for the competition of and I will end now. I will just show the project, their project for the financial district in China in South Hex. I'm totally lost. The foundation for a new world-class waterfront business district. Business, business, and again business. The 500-meter tall tower, what is 500 compared to 1 kilometer? Part of the development will become the new focal point for the district, attracting businesses and tourists from China and the international market. And here it is. I mean, here they are, you know, gloriously celebrating the human power, and beyond the human power, the power of money. And the cars are running, hopefully with electricity and not with oil. But I think some oil will still be used. I remember a funny scene in the movie by the great Swedish film director Ingmar Bergman, where a man who owned a gas station helped a doctor who stopped his car to fill his tank with gas, and the doctor wanted to pay, and the man said, "I'm sorry, doctor," because he helped someone in his family with health problems. He said, certain things cannot be paid with anything, even gas. So it was such an irony, a subtle irony from Ingmar Bergman, that not even gas, not even, you know, Its Majesty gas can pay for certain things, like, you know, saving one's life and so on. It was an ironical comment on, you know, the glory of oil, the glory of gas. Anyway, we are running on the highways and building taller and taller and taller. And the lucky ones will leave the Earth and go to Mars. And they regret immensely that they did that, because they cannot come back. It's madness in the world, and I think this is the last image. Thank you very much. If anyone is still here, okay, still 8 people, not bad. Alexandra is here, Francesca is here, Cosmin is here, a rare bird, so to speak. Anka is here, Christina is here, and then Batsal, the most loyal person to our presentations. And next, Alan Dempsey. I don't know who Alan is, but we welcome him. And Ilyas Abdelmula, maybe you can introduce yourself, or if not, it's fine. Maybe you leave an email address on the chat so I can send you messages if you want. So we said, and it was a long presentation, because we had 5 people who contributed, but we did pay our homage to Palladio, even if, of course, there is a lot of room for additional paying homage to Palladio. And probably we are the only ones in the world who even paid homage to Adrian Smith on his birthday. let's wish him happy birthday. I think he has something to say in architecture. And what else? Tomorrow, if you want, I invite you to Saarinen and another Scandinavian architect from Denmark that is also very important, Henning Larsen. So that's about it today. If you want to say anything, please do so.